god, you guys, look what came in the mail today. It's another Trifectura package. The waiting is over. I'm off probation.
Does this ever happen to you? You're writing an email for work or a paper for school. You click send. But oh no! As your words vanish into the World Wide Web, you spot a typo that squeaked past spell check. What a dunce! Maybe next time you won't rely on electronic conveniences. Maybe you'll reconsider what your great-grandpappy said.
Sometimes faster ain't better.
Maybe you'll give the new Wordsmith 3000 a try. The Wordsmith 3000 writes just like an ordinary ballpoint pen. But unlike an ordinary ballpoint pen, the Wordsmith 3000 comes with built-in spell check. Wow! Never misspell everyday words again. Plus, its patent-pending paper-based communication system means you'll never have to worry about missing typos until it's too late. You'll have hours to catch them. Maybe even days. Looking to expand your vocabulary? Or to find a fancier word for something you already know the easy word for? Then you want optional Cinedrive enhancement. With a myriad of surrogates for simplistic linguistical units, Cinedrive enhancement lets you express to impress. The all-new Wordsmith 3000 with Cinedrive enhancement. Only from Trifectura.
For years I've said I didn't like Steven Spielberg movies. They were a little too sentimental, a little too glib, too much like ordering takeout on a Friday night because after the week you've had, you just can't face going into the kitchen and trying a new recipe in your Trifectura home fry air fryer.
It's good.
For me, there just wasn't enough substance to hold my interest. But then again, I am the guy who almost fell asleep during the car chase scene in the first Terminator movie, so I went into my month-long revisit of Steven Spielberg's biggest films with a certain amount of gritted teeth. Whether I appreciated the craft behind them or not, I didn't expect to enjoy any of them very much. And on that score, at the very least, I was wrong. Looking back over Steven Spielberg's career, there are very few failures. Nearly all of them are entertaining and well-made, at the very least. I mean, one of them is an incompetent mishmash of rage-inducing potato, but we don't talk about that. At the same time, if I'm being honest, I can't entirely jettison my earlier judgment of Spielberg's oeuvre. Many of these movies are just good junk. They're awesome experiences, but they're very much surface-level entertainment. You're supposed to get caught up in the fun of the story playing out in the dark theater, not to think about it too deeply on the way home. The bad guys are bad, the good guys are unerringly good, and if they have any faults, they're endearing ones that you know they're going to get over by the time the credits roll. Simple, sentimental, fun. Most of these films are B movies made with A movie budgets, A movie stars, and A movie craft, and there's really nothing wrong with that. But there are some Spielberg films that just turn out to be much more than that. If E.T. or Jurassic Park or Ready Player One are the cinematic equivalent of a famous burger from a multinational corporate fast food chain, then these films are like a hand-formed maple-glazed bacon burger with caramelized onions. And now I'm hungry. At his best, Spielberg rides the line between B-movie fun and artistic cinema, telling entertaining stories with well-rounded, believable people at their core. I think that's really what sets his best films apart from the more fun but disposable ones. These are movies about
ordinary people under extraordinary circumstances.
Jaws wouldn't work half as well without Chief Brody and Matt Hooper slipping and fumbling their way around the deck of the Orca, right? Dennis Weaver's character in Duel is a total dork. He's weak, he's frightened, he's henpecked, he's sweaty. Indiana Jones spends most of Raiders of the Lost Ark getting the potato kicked out of him. I mean, even when he's being a badass, potato, like in the iconic opening sequence, the whole reason he's in that cool series of traps is because he screws it up. And then he barely makes makes it out alive, and then he gets his prize taken away from him for his trouble. Close Encounters of the Third Kind's Roy Neary almost has a mental collapse after his brush with UFOs. John Miller has PTSD. Carl Hanratty is an exhausted workaholic who's lost any chance he once had at real connection with his daughter. I could go on. The point here is that none of these heroes are Superman. They're just guys. They're imperfect, struggling, falling down human beings just like the rest of us. Aggressively ordinary. And that gives us a reason to care deeply for them and about their stories. And it also makes it easier to suspend our disbelief when the stories take a turn for the fantastic. Compare this to the protagonist of Ready Player One, who always knows exactly what to do in every situation, or the invincible version of Indiana Jones in Jurassic Park is obviously a much better film than these other two examples, but Alan Grant's great flaw, all heroes have to have a flaw, they say, is that he doesn't want to have kids.
They look, they're noisy, they're messy, they're expensive. Cheap. They smell.
How messed up is that? Gotta fix that guy. What this really boils down to, I think, is whether the characters of a given movie feel like real people or like movie characters. Carl Hanratty is that tired office drone we've all worked with, or maybe are. Dennis Nedry is a living cartoon. Indiana Jones pulls himself up by his wits and his whip and takes a licking and keeps on ticking. Frank Abagnale Jr. skates along with a charming smile and the gift of gab, seldom in any danger of being caught. It's life versus fantasy, and for me at least, it's always life that wins me over.
Life, finds a way.
But if authentic characters can give an otherwise goofy and fun scenario a foothold in art, a false moment can also knock a movie that feels real back down a step. Saving Private Ryan's opening sequence is one of the most intense and immersive experiences in any war movie, but here and there throughout the film, characters suddenly start spouting monologues that could only have come from a screenwriter's keyboard.
Someday we might look back on this and decide that Saving Private Ryan was the one decent thing we were able to pull out of this whole god-awful mess.
Roy Neary's habit of reading road maps while driving looks like something out of a 1930s screwball comedy. These are really small things. I mean, I'm not saying that these tiny moments undermine the quality of the films as a whole. They're still really great movies, but these are examples of the more sentimental and simplistic tendencies of Spielberg's style, which sometimes veers from the profound or the exciting into schmaltzy with no warning. One movie which is notably devoid of schmaltz is Schindler's List. This historical drama marked Spielberg's first collaboration with cinematographer Janusz Kaminski, and is perhaps the best work of their partnership. It's also easily Spielberg's most human movie. It would have been really easy to paint the characters of Schindler's List with the broadest possible brush, to present the prisoners of the Krakow ghetto as the purest good, and their Nazi oppressors as the blackest evil, but Spielberg doesn't do that. The film's Jewish characters are sometimes selfish, sometimes criminals, sometimes traitors to their own people. Oskar Schindler himself is a womanizer and a member of the Nazi Party, who's often more interested in keeping his business profitable than in saving lives.
What am I supposed to do about it?
And many of the film's villains, because let's be real, they are still the villains, aren't so much gung-ho about Aryan purity as they are carrying out orders because it's a living anyway. They bitch about paperwork, about government oversight, about shipping disruptions. The same litany of complaints familiar to middle management in most industries. That doesn't excuse the atrocities that were committed against Poland's Jewish population by any means. I'm not trying to say Schindler's List is an apologetic for Nazism, but it does present a relentlessly human picture of the men who orchestrated and carried out the horrors of the Holocaust. They weren't possessed by an evil force. They weren't monsters wearing masks of human skin. They were just ordinary people trying to survive even at the expense of others. Seeing that, we have to recognize how easily any one of us could fall into the same trap, jumping on board just to avoid being mowed over. It's not a very cheerful or comforting view of our species. But that makes the film's little moments of tenderness and human decency all the more powerful. These moments resonate so deeply because they remind us of the simple fact of the character's humanity and of our own. Ultimately, that's what all of the best Spielberg films have in common. They remind us what it means to be human. Sometimes ugly, sometimes tender, sometimes downright absurd, and always resilient. With the country reeling from a pandemic, with protests against police violence being met with more violence, I think maybe I needed a reminder of that this month. Maybe we all do.